What's going on, everybody, and welcome back. So in this one we're going to be doing a little bit of work on my Chevy truck here. This is my 2003 Avalanche. It is cammed, turboed, now lowered on some nice 22s. I'm still working the tires out and working on the suspension because lowering it obviously causes a whole bunch of problems. But one of those problems that I caused was a death wobble, which was weird because when the truck was lowered in the back and I hadn't lowered it in the front yet, it was still way high in the front. It was basically like had a little squat to it. I took it out for a road test and it death wobbled like crazy. As soon as I hit like 43 miles an hour, anywhere from 40 to 45, you could kind of feel it, and then it would come crazy. The wheel would shake and then the whole truck starts shaking back and forth, and it was pretty terrifying, honestly. I never felt a death wobble before, other than in my brother's truck, and we had that problem in his Tahoe. But yeah, I had never been the one driving. The wheel shakes like crazy. It's like, and I know it's because there's a lot of play in the steering in this thing, and I've always known that it had play in the idler arm, the Pitman arm, and everything attached to the center link there. But the inner and outer tie rods don't have play, so I'm gonna leave those alone. I think my main problems are the idler, the Pitman, and I also got the idler arm bracket. The Pitman arm is not here yet. So up under here, hopefully you guys can see. Try to get the light in a better spot. But this is the whole steering setup. That's the turbo drain there, which I thought was leaking, but it looks like it might actually be the crank seal, which I just replaced when I did the cam. So maybe it's the cheap Amazon seal that failed. Or, I don't know, maybe I installed it wrong. I guess something's wrong, but it is leaking a little bit from the crank seal, dripping down the pan, so that's fun. And maybe it's the oil drain as well on the turbo. I'm not sure about that. I'll figure that out at some point. Anyway, I do think that this guy right here needs a little bit of help. We're gonna replace this. I'm gonna see if I can get the camera up here and show you guys the play in it. Maybe I can, maybe I can't. It's better when there's another wheel on it to show the play, but we'll see if you can see it walking back and forth. But anyway, this is definitely what's causing my death wobble. That right there is the idler arm bracket being held to the frame by the two bolts. I'm going to take those guys out. Those are probably like 18s or 19s. And then I'm going to take off the idler arm from the center link, and then we'll proceed to putting all that stuff back on. So I got the old idler and idler bracket out, and you can see I'm going to try to hold it and show you the play in this piece right here. It's very minute. It's barely noticeable, but obviously there's a lot more leverage with the wheels and everything like that, so there's definitely some play in this joint. I figured this thing is original. I'm sure this is also original. I got this, that way I don't have to worry about separating this, and just replace the whole unit. I want all this stuff new just so I can rule it out. And you know, for $60 a piece on these items, 60, and then the Pitman arm that's coming, I mean, you just can't go wrong with that kind of price. So I feel like I'm going to be in the clear here. Shouldn't have any issues, so I'm just going to proceed. I don't know if the if this foam piece is supposed to go on here or what. I'm gonna have to look that up. Maybe that's supposed to keep the grease in on this thing. I'm gonna have to look that up and see if that's where that goes or not. This one does not have foam, it has a boot there, so just got to see how that goes, and then I'll be probably impacting this on right here, and then we'll see if we can go shoot this up in the car just like we took this one out. Alright guys, so I just finished installing the idler and the idler arm bracket. You got your two bolts here, and once you get those two guys done, It's really not too bad. You gotta just get something on the back side of them. I think they're like a 21. And then, yeah, I got this guy cranked down too. This is a nice castle nut, so we can put a cotter pin through there, and that will never back off, even though probably wouldn't, because I rammed that thing home pretty tight, just like everything else. But I can already tell by wiggling the wheel back and forth, it feels tighter, and the steering actually feels stiffer too. This steering was always really loose. I could turn the steering wheel with one finger in this. And the wheels always felt like that when turning them too, but now it feels a bit stiffer, maybe because of how tight I went with this idler arm bracket, or maybe that's just how these new parts are, and the idler arm bracket was worn. So I don't know what the case is, but I'm hoping this does help. So I'm just waiting on the Pitman arm here, and then we'll be able to swap him over. And we're gonna need a Pitman Arm Puller for that. So that is something I'm gonna bring home from work, and then we'll be able to do that, and then we'll really be able to feel the difference. But I think it's already a lot better by changing those two components. So if you guys have a death wobble, I think this is probably the route that's gonna end up fixing it. I was taking out the steering box, so what I did was there's 3 21mm big long bolts that go through the frame here. You can see all 3 of them. I took the wheel liner out just so I could get better access to one of them that was on top there. So you take those 3 out, and then the steering box, you can kind of move it around and position it where you need to, and then you take off that big nut. The big nut being I think it might be a 32, but mine was a little bit rusted, so I used a 33 that I had, and it pulled it right off, which is this guy right here, this combo, 33, and then there's that washer. So I just yanked that thing right off. Came off nice with the Milwaukee. This thing's a champ. I got to get it RMA'd. I have a problem with the trigger. It's no longer variable, and sometimes the trigger gets stuck, which is a little bit terrifying, especially when you got like a swivel socket on there. It'll beat you up. But I do love this thing. I just need to get it RMA'd. I hope the serial number is not missing here. It might be, but yeah, I'm gonna try to get another one of these because I like it so much. Anyway, just don't want to be without it. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw a socket on this puller. This is my Pitman Arm Puller that I borrowed from work. So I got it slid on there. Basically, it's got a piece that essentially it drives this into the steering gear shaft that's sticking out, and in turn it's going to put pressure on this in the outward direction and pull this Pitman arm off of the steering box. And yeah, so hopefully it does the trick, and I hope that it yanks it right off, and then we'll just pound it out of here, and we should be good to go on this thing and get our new Pitman arm in here. So that's the plan. Yep, hit it. Ready? Yep. Yep. Nailed it. That was it. That was a champ right there. That was sweet. Crazy, right? That worked. So what you saw was this Pitman puller as well as this air hammer being used at the same time in order to get this off. And these old Pitman arms on these trucks can be tricky, and this is definitely not something that you want to attempt if you don't have the proper tools. You're not going to get that off without this, that's for sure. And you may not even get it off with this. You know, you may need to air hammer it or have somebody wail on it while you're hitting it with that. But the air hammer is definitely easier, and it's definitely easy to have 2 people. One person powering the air hammer and one person doing everything else with the impact. So I'll show you guys what happened. I got the new one on, and it looks good. The engagement is not as far as the OE one, but I don't think it's going to really be a problem. So it looks really good to me. You can see the engagement is almost as much as the original. It's a little bit shy of where it once was, but that's totally not really going to matter. So I'm going to ship it like that. So I cranked that thing down with my Milwaukee like really tight. I couldn't give you a foot-pounds. You know, I don't really torque things to spec all the time because that's kind of behind there. So to get a torque wrench on it, it would be moving on you. It would be kind of a pain to torque that. You might be able to do it with a shallow socket and an extension or something, but you know, I'm not really worried about it. It's cranked. It's tighter than tight right now. I'm almost worried that it's too tight. So that's fine. It'll be fine. And I cranked these guys too and put the cotter pins in them. So they're all set. And this guy I cranked on the ground as well. So he's cranked and all those bolts up top are tight. So all this thing really needs now is an alignment. We should be good to go. We got entirely new steering. I'm going to throw the other wheel on and finish buttoning the wheel liner up. I'd like to come in here and fix these. I think I have a leak in axle seal, possibly an oil pan, and yeah, also maybe a pinion seal on the front diff. So I kind of want to pull the diff down and do the oil pan and reseal the diff while it's on the ground. It'll be nice and easy, and we'll do that, I don't know, maybe next season or something like that, just to get this thing cleaned up fully, and it'll be spotless. It'll be nice. I don't like oil leaks. I like to fix them if I can. That's kind of what I do for a living, so I feel like I can't have a leaky truck. But anyway, I've been admiring the pipes down here. Everything's looking good. It's holding up well. Nothing's rubbing, so I'm stoked, guys. This thing is going to be ready to rip. I keep saying that, but I think this is really going to be it. I'm going to get rid of this death wobble once and for all. So I got to try to extract that grease fitting at some point. You can see the hole there in the center link to grease this tie rod before the tie rod takes a crapper on me. But I'll try to do that soon, and otherwise, that's it. I'm gonna button this thing back up. So guys, I'm gonna wrap all this stuff up here and say that did fix my death wobble. Sorry I don't have videos of me driving it and all that, but you know, for the most part, you guys should be able to take my word for it. This thing death wobbled like crazy, and not only did I put those parts on and it fixed it, I also changed the tires, and that fixed my vibration on the highway. So tires can have a lot to do with it. I think the real cause of the death wobble is partially a bad tire in a lot of scenarios, but another cause is certainly worn steering components. Anything that's worn is going to need work. So right now I'm moving on to try the next phase here of my project. I'm going to try to relocate my intake air temp sensor because I've been having an issue with heat soak from the sensor throwing off my readings here, and it doesn't really accurately tell the air coming in because it takes time for the sensor to cool down, because after I park the car it'll sit, and then the sensor will say like 118 because it's in the intake manifold, which is super hot. This intake manifold is like 90 degrees right now, and this part right here, this pipe, is like 70 degrees or 80. So I really got to throw it over, like I was thinking down here, and that'll be a really good spot for it. I know I have a lot of unnecessary bends in here. That's just how it goes. Someday I'll clean this up, but otherwise, it's that's what it is. I'm going to go ahead and throw the intake air temp sensor over here, though, so it should be more accurate and less prone to heat soak, because this thing definitely makes a lot of heat with all the big turbo in here and all that stuff. Anyway, yeah, thank you guys for watching, and if you are looking to fix your death wobble, idler and Pitman and idler arm bracket certainly goes a long way, and if you're you got to check your tie rods as well, inner and outer, play in those. But if those are good and you have play in the other components, that can still cause that wobble situation. So you just got to change those parts and then go get an alignment. I still have yet to get an alignment, but I put it on the rack a couple of times, straighten the toe out. It's not too far out right now. I just need to, I have some frozen cams and things like that, like control arms. But you won't really have to mess with caster. You'll really just be setting the toe if you do the idler and Pitman. But since I lowered it and all that stuff, it threw out my caster. So I got a lot of different things I want to pick away at. But for the most part, it really drives great right now. It doesn't pull or anything like that, but the camber is out. So just nitpicking, you know, things like that. Otherwise, it's good to go. So thank you guys for watching, and subscribe to see more on this truck and the Honda. But you know, this truck is definitely the latest project here, and it's going to be seeing quite a bit of attention. So yeah, tune in for more videos. Thank you guys for watching. Peace.